This week in CIST 1530 Web Graphics 1, we're going to explore the Photoshop window. We'll go over a couple other things as far as the tools, menu options, submenus, and also looking at different panels. The version I am using is the Adobe Photoshop 2021 that you'll see on your screen. Okay, so when you load into Photoshop, you should see something like this. You may see a tutorial pop up. The tutorial does get very annoying, and it sometimes will slow down your computer when it opens up. All right, so we're going to look at first the introduction to Adobe Photoshop software. First thing we're going to look at is how to open up a file. Okay, so on this, you do have the options here for File, Edit, Image, and we'll go through each one of these as we progress through the course. You also have options here to create new or open. So let's look at create new first. So I'm going to create a new file. Okay, so in here I've got some recent documents that will be opened up, saved photo. All right, so these are things that I can click on to open up presets. They'll have my dimensions set up for my workspace and also my resolution. And so I can design for print. If I'm going to look for the web, so it's got the settings here for the web as well. Also for film and video sizing, and also for the mobile design as well. You can also come in and set your own width and height, and you can choose this whether you want it in pixels or inches. And we'll get more into that as we go through the chapter semester. You also give your preset a name to save it as well. We will discuss the different color modes, different options we have here. For example, this one, the background contents, we can set the background color. Generally, you can just leave this white for the most part. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and click create. Okay, so when this creates, in this, I've got now a document created. You see I have different options over here. You'll see things appear here. This is your layers panel. Your layers panel is going to be very important. One of your most important parts of Photoshop is using your layers panel correctly. All right. So that's a way you can create a file to start from scratch. Okay, now I'm going to look at how to open. Right here, I can click open. I can also go to the file menu, and I got the options here too, is new or open. Browse and Bridge. This is going to open up Adobe's version of, say, Windows Explorer, where you can search through your files. The big difference is that you can add information about your Photoshop file in Bridge, and you can also see a preview of your Photoshop file. For example, looking at this in Windows Explorer, that's all I see is the icon for the file. Let me go to extra large icon. So all I can see is the Photoshop icon and the name. When I open this in Bridge and give Bridge just a few seconds to open up. Okay, you will get a previewer first time you open it up. So I'm going to close this. So I'm going to navigate to where my files are stored. Okay, see the difference between viewing the images in Bridge versus viewing them in Windows Explorer. So Windows Explorer, I just get the icon for Photoshop. Bridge allows me to actually see the image. So to open these up, I'm just going to double click. It's going to bring it in, and now I'm opened up in Photoshop. All right, so we'll take a few minutes to just explore Photoshop, the panels. In the file, this is where I can browse in Bridge. I can open files. I can choose new. This will have a list of my recent files that I can reopen. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that you have some options to close. Close is just going to close this file, not the Photoshop program. If I come down to exit, that's going to close the entire program. A couple more we're going to look at right now. The save as, those two. Currently save is not active because I've not done any changes. Save as, I do have some options here to change a few things as far as the file format. Let's say I want to save this as a JPEG. Okay, if you guys have any prior experience with Photoshop, you used to be able to just save it as a JPEG directly from here. Now I need to come down to export, and in here I'll choose export as. And I'll wait for the dialog box. So in here, this is where I can change the format now. Okay, so this is where I can choose what file I'm wanting to save this as, what file type. So if I would just need a JPEG or PNG, this is where I would come in and export it. Okay, edit. We will get into this more and more throughout the semester. Image, well, this is where you can make adjustments to the image, the canvas size, rotation. Layer is going to allow you to have different options here, like creating a layer mask, which we will cover later on. Type is going to be your text. Select is just what it says. It's where you select or modify the select settings. So we'll go through these. I do want to jump over here to Window. This is where I can turn on my panels on or off. And so let's say I need my adjustments panel. I can click a button and my adjustments panel is there. Or let's say character, since it's not currently displayed. Okay, so this is where I turn my panels on. So Photoshop window is going to be made up of different panels. A couple things you have here. You have your workspace area here. You have your layers panel, your channels panel, paths, your properties, adjustments, libraries. Your colors will be up in this area, depending on your workspace. Now, these are all stuff that you can move around. You can redesign your workspace to fit your desire. This is my preference, just to stay with the default. Okay, so I've got my character and paragraph. This is for my text, space and text. To the left here, I do have my tools. Okay, so I've got different tools here. For example, right now I have a move tool selected. If you put your mouse over these tools, it's going to give you this little tooltip. It's going to show you what the tool does. So, for example, I've got the magnetic lasso tool selected. Okay, so it shows you how to use this tool. Some of these tools also, you'll notice, have a little arrow in the bottom. Okay, that allows you to see tools underneath them. There are tools under there. So for example, the rectangular marquee tool. This is a selection tool. If I hold down my left mouse button, you'll see that I do have other options in here. Once again, Photoshop has now added this tooltip so you can see how these tools are used. You'll also notice that there is a letter to the right of the tool name. Okay, for example, this one is M. That allows me to use my keyboard shortcut of M to move through those. So this week you guys need to spend some time exploring the tools as well. Check for the tools underneath them, the different keyboard shortcuts. And so forth through here as well. Now, let's go back to the layers. When we see in the layers panel, I've got two different layers here. One is not visible. Okay, so this will allow turn the visibility on or off of the layer. Okay, when a layer is not visible, you will not see the little eyeball thing, icon. When a layer is visible, that is when, or layer is visible and selected, that is when any changes you make are going to take place to that layer. So we're looking at this here. Let's say I want to erase something in this layer here. Okay, if I have the rows layer selected and I come over to my eraser tool, let me change some settings here. One thing too, when we do this, when we choose a tool, we do have options that will change up here. Now, what I was trying to accomplish in this, I was going to make some changes to the ribbons layer. I had the rows layer selected. So while I make these changes, you'll notice that nothing is happening to the ribbon layer. Okay, because I have the wrong layer selected. I can go up to edit and then choose the undo eraser. In this case, it's going to take me right back because I've only done one step. Well, let's say I do a step and for some reason, every time I release the mouse button, I've applied this. So let's say for some reason I didn't realize that I was on the wrong layer. I can go up here and do the undo eraser, or I can redo eraser. And also come to the window, one of the easiest panels to use is the history panel. History panel is going to allow me to go back in time and undo a previous step. So I can move this back and I can also go forward. Now, if I move it back and I do any other changes, the history from that point forward is changed. So let's say I want to make sure I get rid of all four of these. I'm going to click on layer visibility. But now if you notice, when I make a change, my history is going to be changed here. So this is a quick way you can jump around and edit your document in Photoshop, edit your history. A couple things here you can collapse. You can also got some options with the menu options here as well. You can also drag these panels around and you can dock them. So say you wanted the history panel down here with the layers panel at all times. You can do that as well. You can also close tabs or close tab groups, close the panels. So explore your panels, explore your tools, your panels, and we'll cover each one of these tools more in depth at a later time. This is where you can choose your colors. Let me go back to the layer. So the adjustment, this is where you can choose adjustment layers. These are layers that you can apply to the layers panel. that are applied in that do not affect your layers underneath permanently. So let's say I adjust the hue or the saturation or the lightness. It gives me a different look for the image, but when I turn that off, you'll see that the image underneath has not been affected. Okay, this is a layer that's placed on top of the other layers. So adjustment layers are a great way you can use to adjust your image without being destructive to the actual image itself. A couple things here now that we've made some changes to the document, we're going to go back to the file menu. We'll see some things here as the save as. Save is going to save your document just like anytime you save a document in Windows. Save as will let you change the document's name, location, and so forth. The export, you do have some options in here, and we'll get over some of these later on. We've covered the exporting as different file formats. Selection tools, you guys really are going to need selection tools, so make sure that you try those out. Photoshop does give you the ability, even though the book's going to tell you to do something a specific way, when you're actually working in Photoshop, there are going to be 10,000 different ways to accomplish the same task. Everybody's going to find a way they prefer, and that's okay. It's okay to do it different as long as you achieve the same results. Be sure to, like I said, go through here and look at the shortcut tools, keyboard shortcuts, because they will help you. They'll save you a lot of time instead of looking for a tool. Now let's say that you get Photoshop, the windows moved around, the panels. I'm not going to do it because I prefer mine. Let's say you get these moved around. You want the tools moved from the left to over here to the right. You can save that by going to Window, Workspace, and you do have some predetermined workspaces up here. You can also choose New Workspace, where you can give your workspace a name so you can quickly load it. So let's take a quick look here at some of the different ones. So let's say I'm workspace for graphic and web. Okay, so it's got a few things that's been moved around. We can also look at, say, the photography layout. I usually stay on the essentials. That's my one I work from. Okay, we can also look at the search options here. Okay, so this will give you some help, some tutorials, quick actions. So we're going to find the help and learn. So we see here that we have results here. We'll click on this, and it's going to bring us up different tutorials, different documents, knowledge-based documents that we can use. Help images or help documents. And then, like I said, we also have tutorials, hands-on tutorials. So these right here, it'll walk me through whatever task I'm looking for help with. So I'm going to exit this. Like I was saying, though, you've got different options that will appear depending on the tools. Some of these options will have a commit button or a cancel button. So if I wanted to add this text layer, I would need to make sure I commit it. And you'll see the text is added. You also notice a new layer has been added over here as well. Exploring the tools. Okay, we have our move tool. I'm gonna go back to the other one. We'll close that. So we have our move tool. That allows me to move elements around on the page so I can place them exactly where I want to. One hint for the move tool, if you come to the view tab or the view options, you can also come in here to turn on your grids or your guides. For instance, I'm going to put a new guide. Okay, so you see this line that's been added. So I can move that. So if I want something placed specifically, say I want this happy birthday to say, let me move this back a little bit more. So I want it starting right there on that guide. I can then place this precise based on my guides. And you can also have the option here to the snap or the snap to. Okay, that means when I get that object here close to it, it's snapping into place. And you'll see the guide change a little color where I'm placing it. Okay, so that is a great way to use these to place. You can also come down here to clear guides to remove it. You also have a new guide layout. Okay, so you can come in and use these guide layouts as well. I'm just going to cancel these. So move tool, you're going to use that a lot. Selection tools. So once again, play with these this week. Explore it, experiment. You can't mess up your image. You always have the option of going back to Windows history. And even with all the changes, I can always go back to my starting document and then work my way back through the changes. A couple other tools that we're going to look at briefly here is going to be your magnification tool, your zoom tool. And this does exactly what it says. Based on the settings you have here, you're going to zoom in or out. You also have some presets here. So I'm going to zoom in on this. And you see as I zoom in, I start seeing the individual pixels in this image. The little squares are the individual pixels. That's what makes up an image. And that's what makes up a Photoshop image. This allows me to get more precise on my work. So using these settings, say I want to change this one pixel color. And we'll go over all this stuff later, but I've now been able to change one pixel color. So I'm going to choose my zoom tool again, and then this one's going to hit fit screen. You can see there, just barely where I've changed that pixel. My zoom out button also will zoom you out. You can use either one of those, or you can use your presets to zoom as fit your screen. So the zoom button, you really need to get used to using that because you will use that a lot. It gives you more precise control over your image. And on the reverse of this, if I'd taken a photo of this and realized that there was something there, something I need to remove, I can then come in and choose the color of the pixel beside it and change this back so the red dot is no longer there. Now, once you zoom in, you will see the pixels become distorted. So as I zoom in on the flower, you'll start seeing these pixels becoming distorted to where you can no longer really make out what the image is. But the image still remains. Okay, so you're not really changing anything. You're not distorting it. You're just zooming your view in. All right, so we've discussed at the top the option bars. You have different options as you choose different tools. And when we cover the individual tools more, we'll cover the options as well. Okay, once again, you can view the rich tooltips as well. Now, this is only going to show you the currently selected tool at the top. So, for example, I have the spot healing brush selected. So the animation is going to show me how the spot healing brush works. Where if I have now the red eye tool selected, the animation is going to change based on what I have selected. Not all of these have the animation as you just saw as well. All right, so that's chapter 1. Throughout this chapter, you'll have assignments broken down into the chapter, steps you will follow through. Be sure to go through and do each one of those, and then submit your assignment to the Blackboard Dropbox.